What's up, everybody? Welcome to SWAT MMA. This is episode 148. I'm Jared here with Paul.
What up?
Coming to you from the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas. Today, we're going to be talking all about BKFC 30, which sees champion Lorenzo Hunt defend his cruiserweight title against Quentin Henry, as well as the heavyweight debut of Big Ben Rothwell from the UFC. He is debuting against Bobo O'Bannon. We're also going to be talking about the upcoming UFC Fight Night, as well as the drama surrounding the UFC's shoe deal with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Jose Aldo's retirement from mixed martial arts. But before we get into the combat sports, you know what time it is. Grab your stash, fire it up. Let's get into the weed of the week.
Smoke weed every day.
Paul, before you tell us what our wonderful, because this joint is bomb, before you tell everybody what we're smoking on, I want to take a moment to talk about our sponsor for this episode. You know, Paul, maybe people are listening and they're saying, Jared, Paul, I love your show. I love your weed of the week, but I don't live in a state where cannabis is legal and I can't get any. What am I supposed to do? Well, we have the answer for you with Binoid CBD. Binoid CBD gets the best and newest cannabinoids that are hemp-derived. So what that means is they are legal across the United States. And they're your number one source for vape cartridges, vape disposables, gummies, tinctures, and even dabs for not just CBD, but also various forms of THC that are found in hemp and therefore legal. You can find out more about Binoid CBD and get 20% off if you go to our website, SWAT MMA, and click on the Cool Stuff button. Follow the links. Now,
All
Paul,
right.
what is this delicious herb? Dude, I'll tell you right now, it tastes like fruity.
Well,
What are we
today
smoking?
we're smoking on some super lemon haze.
Oh, that's why, because I recognize the taste and the smell. This is one of my favorite strains ever.
It's one of the best.
I fuck with sativas, bro.
Yeah, I'm big on sativas as well. So it's a sativa. It's a mix of lemon skunk and super silver haze, which are two great strains as
Yes,
well.
dude,
So
absolutely.
this is just one of my top 10s, I'd say, all-time strains.
And you can always spot this weed because it has a very, very distinct smell.
Yeah. Before the show, I was telling Jared to just smell this little container that the weed is in, and it freaking just was all lemony. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. It's, you know, we talk a lot during this segment about how there's kind of some BS when you read strain reviews and people are like, "Oh, I taste notes of chocolate with some red
Yeah.
wine and perhaps like, come on, motherfucker."
Yeah.
But there are certainly some strains that have very distinct smell and flavor profiles. And super lemon haze, or is this super or regular lemon
Yeah,
haze?
super lemon haze.
This is the super lemon. Definitely has that, bro.
Well, that's the thing too. Is like it's a lot more like, I would say, like fruit or like other like vegetables. Actually, like when those kind of like smell like garlic mushroom and onion cookies. Actually, like
That does. GMO
like,
cookies
yeah,
smells that way.
you know
for
what I
sure.
mean? Like when it has like those kind of smells and like aromas and shit like that. Like it's more easy to tell. Like when someone tells you it's like, oh, this weed is Skittles. It's not gonna taste like fucking Skittles, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, in a lot of those, they're just a stretch. But
yeah,
when you get these ones that are real heavy on the orange and lemon flavored and scented
Yeah.
terpenes that grow, you know, the natural terpenes, they really stands out. This has the terpenoline in it, and I'm pretty certain that mixed with the humulene is the number one cause of that lemon, because beta carotene is like a peppery smell and taste to it, which is the other major terpene in this. So, and you don't see the terpenoline. I think I'm saying that right. It's really printed small. Yeah. Terpenoline. Dude, there's so many different terps and cannabinoids being discovered. You know, there's over 200 now in the cannabis plant.
damn.
And they're doing the same thing with hemp plants now, which is why, well, things like Binoid can exist, where they're selling literally forms of THC legally because they're hemp derived, and
Mm-hmm.
what's illegal in cannabis plant is the THCA,
Yeah.
and then when that's converted into THC when it's activated by heat. Right. So if you go on the Binoid website, you'll see they have these vapes with all these different like THC, Delta 8 THC, Delta 9 THC, 10 THC, etc. So between these two plants, it's hard to keep up with all the various cannabinoids.
Well, I think that's enough about the weed for today. So let's talk about some fights, yeah?
Yeah, we burned through that joint quick.
Yeah, that's pretty quick. So
Well, look, there's not a lot to talk about with the UFC's
Yeah,
fight night. Why
it's
don't we
kinda
talk?
rough.
Why don't we get started with that? I mean, it's kind of weird.
yeah,
As of this recording, which is mere days before this card hits, if you go on the UFC's website, they have like 6 fights listed.
I think it's 5.
It's even less than I thought.
Yeah,
That's odd, don't you think?
very strange.
And then in the following card, they have like
4.
even less.
Strange times. But so in the main event, we have Mackenzie Dern taking on Yan Shannon in a pretty much a number 1 contenders fight for that flyweight title. Not
Is it the
flyweight, sorry.
Oh, you had me
that's
tripping
men's.
for a
That's
second. I
men's.
was like, what?
What is it? It's I'm sorry.
It's 30. Aren't they at 35?
No.
Or they're 15, I mean?
Yeah, they
115
115.
is strawweight.
Strawweight, yeah. Sorry. Flyweight. I'm tripping.
Mackenzie Dern's got her hands full here.
Yeah, I would say so.
She's been doing well. She's evolved quite a lot. My respect levels for her fighting skills in mixed martial arts have climbed since she made her debut. Everybody knows her jiu-jitsu's great. Her striking's been a hot mess. Not now. It's gotten
better.
She's gotten quite a bit better. She's doing well. And if she gets past Yan here, then I'll be impressed.
And on the other side, also, Yan, she's really game opponent, and she's already fought some of this like top level of this division already. You know what I mean? She has a loss to Carla Esparza, but you know that's literally who the champion is right now. So that could set up another rematch for her there. And that was not like a total like blowout. It was a good fight. So
set up a rematch.
Yeah. Everything's a rematch at this point in this freaking division, man. Everybody's fought everybody, and there's really no ifs, and or buts about it. If Mackenzie Dern loses this fight, like there's no
Dern
there's
needs
no one else
to win here for the division's sake. I mean, Carla's going to be defending her title soon. Let's be honest, a lot of people are writing her off on that. And if she loses or if she wins, either way, we're looking at a bizarre set of rematches we've got.
Yeah.
Dern, if she wins here, being the freshest face in the mix, because Rose is off being Rose. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, she might actually. Some people are saying that she's going to retire. We'll see.
That'd be a disappointment as a fan, but
yeah,
whatever. I mean, I like Rose, but clearly she has struggles.
Yeah.
So, do you think Mackenzie Dern has what it takes to win in this fight, in this headlining spot against?
See, that's the thing. I think Jan's entire like fighting style is more well-rounded than Mackenzie Dern. I think obviously if it goes to the ground, that's her world. But I think that Jan has better striking, and I think she has the ability to keep things from going to the ground. I think she ends up winning this fight, honestly.
Do you think this is the plateau for Dern if she can't win here? You think she just needs?
I think she just needs to keep evolving. Yeah, because I
mean, she's only 12-2 right now.
Yeah.
It's not like she's like a loss destroys her.
I think
career
she's only like 27
or anything, and she's young as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Jan is 15-3 with the 1 no contest. I like Dern. Actually, I'm going to pick Dern in this fight. I think she can get it done.
Well, let's kind of move down the card.
There's not a lot to move down to.
Yeah.
Let's keep it real. I mean, Tevin Jones is on here, but it is what it is. He's a fun match. The only other real consequential bout, though, is the co-main event at welterweight, which is Randy Brown versus the veteran Francisco Trinaldo.
Yeah. I think this is a pretty good fight for Brown. I think it's a good chance for him to maybe showcase how he's evolved in his game, because I think that's really the only thing that's ever stopped him from going to the next level is like him. I think he's when he first came to the UFC, he kind of the same thing that happened with like all the other guys that came from that Dana White. Wasn't the Contender Series, but remember when he did the Looking for the Fight? That's where
Yeah,
Randy Brown was
came
on.
from, was
Yeah.
looking for a fight.
So, and those guys, I feel like early on kind of got thrown to the wolves. Like they didn't handle them necessarily as well as they've done.
Not
with
they do with the Contender Series,
guys.
no.
Yeah, the Contender Series guys, they're kind of starting from the bottom and going. Where it was like Randy Brown kind of was thrown to the wolves early in his career, and I feel like we're just seeing him start to get better and better. I feel like this is a good chance for him to, get things going in the right direction for him.
Well, he certainly goes into this fight with some pretty big advantages on paper. I mean, yes, Francisco Trinaldo definitely has got more experience than him. However, Trinaldo's 5'8", dog.
Yeah.
Like Randy Brown's 6'2".
Mm-hmm.
So we got a 70-inch reach on Trinaldo. We got 78-inch reach on Randy Brown. Like, if you can't win with like 5-6 inches in height and fucking 8 inches in reach.
But Trinaldo tends to just win
a
enough
dog.
to keep himself going. You know what I mean? He's one of
He's a
those like
dog.
old school guys who like has been around forever, and just when you think he's like, this is going to be the fight where he, really should think about fighting still, and he goes out and wins. So it's like such
True.
a, you know what I mean? Same. He's kind of like Jim Miller is. You know what I mean? You see him lose too, and you're like, ah, shit, he should, hang him up, and then he wins like 3 in a row, and you're like, oh wait, never mind, I guess. So.
Well, I mean, Ronaldo has won. I mean, shit, he's 4-1 in his last 5.
That's what I'm saying.
Can't
Like,
really
you're like,
deny him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's not like he's been doing bad.
No, he's just been around a long time. He's one of those guys who, kind of decides how you
Interestingly enough, Randy Brown has the same record. He hasn't lost since Vicente Luque, and before that, he had the win over Thiago Alves.
Yeah,
he's got the win over Cowboy Oliveira, Gooden, and then Williams.
Yeah.
No, I like Randy Brown here. I think he's matured, and I think his advantages on paper are just going to be too much. I mean, plus it's the classic Orthodox versus Southpaw matchup where Trinaldo's best chances are going to be to get in and go for the takedowns, right?
Yeah, you would think just to close that distance, because it's going to be hard for him to,
I mean, he doesn't even average one per fight. It's not like he's really known for his takedowns.
Yeah, he's actually known better, honestly, for his hands.
So.
But then again, we've seen Randy Brown get knocked out before against,
Luque, wasn't it?
No, and Nico Price too.
Nico Price. Yeah, that was a bit. Yeah, he should have been fighting Nico Price.
Yeah,
it was way too early. But
yeah.
Well,
My thing is, if he can, get around to that reach, maybe things could be different. We'll see.
At some point, age is going to catch up with him too. I mean, he's fucking 44 years old. Trinaldo is.
I know.
I mean, there comes a point where it's like, it's like you hit the top of the hill, and right there you can still maintain that shit for a second, but when you go down the other side, it happens fast.
Yeah.
And so I feel like these older fighters, at some point, they're just going to have this fight where they get their fucking ass kicked, and you're like, oh yeah, it's because he's fighting and he's 44.
I don't know. Maybe he's just one of those outliers, because we saw another one of those last weekend when Yoel Romero. So I mean,
okay, you're right about he's a machine at that age.
Machine, dude.
But he was fighting another ancient motherfucker, and that's who he should be fighting.
Yeah,
someone like Melvin Manhoff. But dude, that guy's a specimen.
Anderson Silva still fights.
Jake Paul, Julio Cesar Chavez in the boxing.
Hey, dude, that was pretty lit.
I mean, I don't know. He did great. But he's not in the UFC.
I'm just fucking with you.
I know you are. That's why I'm looking at you like, get the fuck out of here. No, I don't like Trinaldo to win this fight. Good career, good thing. Randy Brown's going to tear him up. It's going to be his coming out party. A little bit.
I'm taking Brown too. I just wanted to give a little bit of the other side, possibly.
The other side. That's it for the UFC, man. It's really a kind of a low profile card here, and that's being kind. We can literally only talk about 4 other fights. I mean, this card is so low profile, they're not even bothering to tell us less than 5 days out what's the remainder of the card. There's going to at least at least be 4 other fights minimum. You got to have at least 10 on these things, right?
Dog, what if Bo Nickel, when he fights on Tuesday night, if he wins, there's like throw him on the card.
Fuck it. That'd be
He
dope.
already made weight.
The UFC doesn't do dope things anymore.
But I think that's also could be a part of it. They know they have that on Tuesday night. They know that's coming up.
Well, let's wrap up that. Let's go into something that is exciting every fucking time it's on. Tell me I'm wrong, anybody listening. BKFC 30 is touching down, where we've got some pretty interesting fights at the top of the card. Before we talk about the title fight, I want to talk about, UFC's former heavyweight Ben Rothwell making his debut in bare knuckles heavyweight division, fighting Bobo O'Bannon, who, for those of you listening that are new to this bare knuckle thing, which is going to be most everybody, let's be honest, you might look at Bobo's record and go 3-3. Nah, he's solid. He's a well-respected fighter from the UK. He's a veteran in the bare knuckle scene.
Yeah,
and
he's fought the best of the division.
Absolutely, and records don't mean much in bare knuckle right now yet. You can have a 50-50 record and still be close to a title. It's a young sport, and people are learning as it goes. It's evolving as it goes. Ben Rothwell brings a lot to the table for the heavyweight division, though, in BKFC, though, Paul. He's not called Big Ben for no reason.
Yeah.
He's not exceptionally tall, but he is 6'4", which is a big motherfucker.
Yeah.
But he is 265 pounds in the UFC, which was their limit. So he could be bigger. Ben could have been cutting a few pounds to get there. Ben could have been dieting through training camp. He could be a 280er, bro. He could be walking around in real life at 300 pounds, cut down to 280 at training camp, and make his way down to 265.
Is their heavyweight division unlimited?
As far as I know.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes it can be hard because Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship is still a new organization, and their website has gotten a lot better since the Triller money's come in, but it's still not perfect. Like some of these fighters on this card, they've got them spread out in 3 different divisions on their website.
Yeah.
We know this fight's a cruiserweight, but what exactly weight is that?
Who knows? Because literally, if you go on their website and click the top 3 guys, they're all 3 different weights and they're all the same weight class.
Yeah, it's very odd.
Yeah, fucking Lombard's a 180, fucking Lorenzo Hunt's 185, Henry's 203 for some reason.
They're all cruiserweights. But whatever. That's just growing pains. The fight itself, though, Ben Rothwell, Bobo O'Bannon, is going to be the shit. And I'm very curious if Ben's size, because the big boys from the UFC, we haven't really seen them yet in BKFC, and I'm super curious how that size translates, because a lot of the guys that are in the heavyweight division right now for BKFC are on the smaller side of heavyweights.
Yeah.
Look at the champ, look at the former champ, Beltran. Shit, he was 205 on his way out in BKFC or UFC.
Yeah.
And I've met Joey Beltran. I bought him a beer at a fucking UFC event he just happened to be in attendance at once. So I've seen him in person, stood right by him. He's not a very big dude.
No.
He's not like Frank Mir's like a huge man.
Frank Mir's a humongous person.
Like these are guys that it's not their height necessarily, but their broad, their width, they're fucking just big and thick, fucking huge. And they can kind of bully these smaller guys around, I feel, inside the bare knuckle, what do they call it? The squared, what do they even call that thing? It's not the squared circle.
I guess. Circle square.
Whatever. It's not a cage, but inside their ring.
Yeah.
In ways that we haven't seen yet. And I think we might. Bobo's a fairly big dude. I couldn't find his stats right in front of me, but I don't think he's as big as Ben Rothwell. And Ben's actually got decent striking if he doesn't have to worry about takedowns and kicks and shit.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Man, I think he's a great addition to a heavyweight, just a heavyweight division overall that needs a little bit of star power. If he comes in and does well, it'll be big for BKFC. And it will give kind of more, I hate to say it, but then you also got guys like Greg Hardy that have come from the UFC also. And they're starting to bring some of these guys that are getting dropped by the UFC into the BKFC, and I like it.
All right, Bobby O'Bannon. He used to be a boxer.
Yeah.
He's 6'2".
Okay. So that's close. Close enough. But still, Rothwell is a big motherfucker.
Yeah, Rothwell is just like
he's like a bear.
yeah,
Like,
he's
literally.
big like a bear. Exactly.
I think this could be a good chance for him to really come out and shine and be the the big reason that a lot of people are talking about this card at the end of the weekend.
I think so too. And I want it to be, if there's going to be a big heavyweight come over from the UFC, I want it to be somebody like Rothwell.
Yeah.
Rothwell's a fairly entertaining guy too. Like he's weird
He's funny.
and he's funny.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do a lot of things that he wanted to do in the UFC because of they're kind of strict about what you can wear. And he always tried to find ways to be weird and strange or funny.
Yeah.
And I think we might see a lot of that from him. And in this, he's allowed to wear what he wants, do what he wants on the mic, do the walkout how he pleases, say what he wants after the mic. It could be interesting.
Yeah.
But I'd rather it be someone like Ben and not somebody like the guy you just mentioned, Greg Hardy, who is, unfortunately, I dislike that man so much, and he is now signed into the bare knuckle. And I can't
deny he's probably going to do pretty well.
I can't. That's just going to say I can't deny. Like, yeah, you might find a lot of success actually.
Yeah,
because he's really big.
He hits hard, and he fucking all the same things we just said about Ben
literally
Rothwell,
everything we just said. Yeah,
yeah.
He's another guy where his height isn't extreme, but he's so fucking big.
Yeah,
like.
You should tackle fucking quarterbacks on Sundays, man.
Yeah.
Come on. like
yeah.
He's a big motherfucker.
So that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious about Ben's. But now let's move up to the title fight here. This is solid shit right here. Quentin Henry is going to be a tough challenge. I mean, he's 5-1 in BKFC. He's got 3 wins in a row. We've got the champ Lorenzo Hunt, 7-1, 6 wins in a row. Coming off wins over Lombard and Joe Riggs.
And both these guys, if you look at their BKFC records, lost like early into their BKFC career. Exactly. Lorenzo Hunt lost his second fight in bare knuckle, and then from there on has won since then. And then Henry, he lost, I think it was his second fight in bare knuckle against Chris Lieben, in Lieben's last fight. So I don't really count that against him.
Yeah, I saw that fight. That was a great fight, and Lieben really did well.
Yeah,
and it's hard. It's hard to get the feel for bare knuckle. And we talk about it every time we bring this up, but it's true because you can't really spar for this. You can't take your gloves off and go actually spar bare knuckle with someone.
Yeah. I mean, you could. It's not going to turn out well.
Well, no, that's just you can. That's a terrible plan. So you really can't get the exact feel until you're doing it. Mm-hmm. So the growth process can take a little while.
Yeah,
we've seen it with guys like Julian Lane. We've seen it with plenty of other fighters, man.
Honestly, Mike Perry also. Mike Perry went from that little triad combat thing he did where I thought he looked a little shaky as a bare knuckle boxer. I know that was like kind of bare knuckle.
Yeah, it's kind of gloved, kind of not weird thing.
But then he comes into here, and I think he's starting. He kind of talks about it in a lot of interviews he does, but every single time he gets in there, he gets more and more comfortable with just what he has to do in there to win.
Right.
Because and I think we've seen that a lot in a lot of these crossover fights. When you talk about even like Chad Mendez when he had his debut, like there's this just this different way of fighting that happens in the BKFC ring versus whether it is regular boxing or MMA. Because the same thing when Paulie Malignaggi came from regular boxing into bare knuckle, he was kind of shell shocked too because it was just a complete different.
And Artem had a huge advantage because he had bare knuckle experience prior.
And so it's just a different game, and I feel like these two guys we're talking about next, Hunt and Henry, both now having on Hunt's side 8 fights in bare knuckle and Henry's side 6. That's a lot of experience in this in this sport, and that's why I feel like this could be a very interesting fight.
Dude, these are 2 highly skilled guys. I mean, you still kind of see some of the newer, we'll call them more raw fighters on the prelims. Mm-hmm. But as the cards progress towards the top, you're seeing more and more skilled fighters doing skilled shit in the ring. I mean, Jesus Christ. Look at guys like Connor Tierney.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's the thing, too, is we're seeing a growth in different styles as well,
Yeah.
because you're seeing like guys like Connor Tierney who are more boxing style, where they're willing to put their hands down and parry strikes and use the angles and get away, and then you got guys like Mike Perry who fucking run you down and try to beat you.
Yeah, they want to bull you in.
Get you first. Yeah,
exactly.
And then even guys like Palomino who are able to use that clinch also and be real effective in there. There's just so many different styles that have began to form in this company that I feel like they're so different every single fight we see.
Oh, it's really exciting. It's no bullshit. Like this, I like this shit better than UFC now. Like when it comes to like,
borderline.
dude, which event are you going to be watching? The BKFC or the UFC Fight Night? I mean,
Oh yeah, no, I feel it.
dude, I'm tuning in to BKFC and I'm watching the entire card, start to finish, and
it's exciting.
There was finally, I think there was a fight the other day when we were watching a replay where it was like, for whatever reason, it was kind of meh.
Yeah.
But I can't even remember who it was. But I'm excited about this card. Who are you picking? You got a prediction for both Ben and Bobo and then the championship fight?
So I'm going to take Ben Rothwell. Then I think the champ retains. I think Hunt wins by knockout.
I'm picking Ben Rothwell as well. And I like, as a fan, I'd kind of like to see Quentin Henry. I think he's a character. He seems like an interesting dude. Win. But I'm also picking Lorenzo Hunt.
Yeah, he's a savage.
By knockout, probably 4th round, I'd say. Break it down that deep. Now, let's kind of shift out of the fights themselves for a minute, and let's talk about some things a little outside the actual act of fighting, but directly tied into it. And this has to do with the UFC and their shoe deal.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because... And let's refresh the situation, because the average listener of our show here is most likely not clued into the intricacies of the UFC's clothing and apparel deals and the fighters, and they probably see things and assume it's just like all the other sports. When you see a fighter out there parading around in the Nikes that are being made to wear, hey, they're getting paid for that shit.
Yeah.
Well, the UFC has a clothing deal with Reebok to start off this thing. It used to be whatever. Then Reebok comes in, right? And Reebok makes
changes the whole pay scale,
and they make the gear, and they change the pay terribly, and they can't. No sponsors are allowed anymore. Like that was the thing that killed the sponsors. The UFC tried, to kill sponsors being on fighter shorts, is what we're talking about.
Yeah,
and they did things like they made a $50,000 fee that if you wanted to be a sponsor on the fighter shorts, you had to pay the UFC this $50,000 fee, which kind of knocked out a lot of small businesses.
Yeah.
It got rid of, JoJo's Plumbing in Massachusetts being able to get their shit on the UFC.
Yeah.
And kind of left it to the big dogs. But you could still get sponsors. You could still make big money. Then the Reebok deal comes in, kills it. Reebok has their own shoes. So suddenly fighters got to not only wear the fucking gear, they got to wear the shoes. And this just isn't in the octagon. It's all during fight week and at media appearances. Reebok deal ends, right? They bring in Venom, which Venom's probably better anyways. At least they understand mixed martial arts, right?
Yeah.
But they don't increase the pay for any of the fighters. They keep the pay is the same as when the Reebok deal was announced. How many years ago now? This is prior to the sale. This is Lorenzo Hunt. These are things they did in order to make the UFC more legit before selling it, right?
Fertitta.
The Fertittas. Yeah. What did I call him?
You called Lorenzo Hunt.
Lorenzo Hunt. That's funny.
UFC. But no, I literally 100% agree. It's ridiculous what they're doing, and
it came in and then Venom takes over, but Venom doesn't make shoes, right?
Yeah.
So there's this spot, and we think that fighters are going to be able to wear their own shoes now. Nah. Who comes in? Who comes in with the fucking shoes?
Under Armour and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and now they're wearing the Rock shoe or whatever.
And so how does this work? He's got some kind of partnership deal with Under Armour, under their umbrella, where he makes his own shoe.
It's the same way like Jordan and Nike. Like he has his own branch of Under Armour.
Okay, so got it. All right, so the Rock shoes distributed, made by Under Armour, basically. So now the Rock is a big fan of the UFC, right? And he goes out and he says a lot of things about the shoes and how great UFC athletes are, right?
Yep.
And they got wearing their fucking shoes here a couple,
maybe a couple
events ago.
Yeah, maybe 3.
So they got to wear them all fight week. They got to wear them to media day. They got to wear that shit out to the fucking octagon. And man, guess how much money they're getting?
0.
Jack fucking shit.
Well,
Not
this
a damn thing.
goes back to the same thing before when remember they're putting crypto.com straight up on all
those t-shirts,
all everything.
Yeah.
So now we get no money from crypto.com. Half the money you really should be getting from Venom, and no money from Under Armour / The Rock brand.
Yeah, for your first 6 fights in the UFC, they get, I think it's $2,500 from Venom.
Yeah.
And then from like 6 to 10, you get like 10 grand or something. Yeah. And then 10 fights to 15, it goes up. And then for like, if you have more than 20 fights in UFC, you get like 20 G's per fight. And then if you fight for the championship, you get like 30 or 40 if you're champion.
And the only other opportunity you had for any sponsorship before was Monster Energy. You could get, like, if you were a champion or like a deeply vetted fucking UFC fighter, you could get sponsored by it.
Yeah, you can get an individual
Monster.
deal if you're a big dog.
Yeah.
Who's already making the only big money there is.
Yeah.
So the shoes were included in the Reebok deal that was part of the overall kit, as they fucking call that shit.
Yeah.
Fucking lame ass name.
Yeah.
It's not soccer, y'all. Or football. But so that money stayed the same. The shoes get added in, and the UFC gives them nothing. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson goes out talking about how UFC fighters bust their ass, and he's really proud to partner with the individual fighters who kick ass.
Well,
and our boy Terrence McKinney had something to say about that.
Yeah, he goes after The Rock not necessarily goes after him. He says he respects him, he likes him, but you say that you respect and like all of us, but I don't get why we're not getting paid for the shoes you're putting on us. And then Nate Diaz, the week before that, went as far as to do in his post-fight interview, which was cut by the UFC. The actual footage of it was cut from the interview, but he takes his shoe off, points at the Rock shoe, and goes, "This fucking shoes suck."
And he goes, "They made me wear this shit."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
exactly. And now you have The Rock. Now, look, we all know The Rock is not sitting in a room with Dana White going over this deal, and Dana goes, "Well, I'm not going to give the fighters anything," and The Rock goes, "That's right, more money for us." And then they fucking high five each other. All right, I mean, The Rock is probably not involved in anything with this deal in the day-to-day shit. But this doesn't mean that he doesn't have the power to speak up and say something and get some money. And he could be like, "No, look, we're going to do this deal. We need to divert X amount of dollars to the fighters. We need to develop a tier for them, just like their other clothes that they wear, because this isn't Reebok anymore. Even though they kept the Reebok money the same, they didn't increase shit for inflation. They didn't fucking make any adjustments. Jack shit. Of course, that's really not surprising. This is the same company who is giving $100,000 bonuses in like UFC 110, and they're giving $50,000 bonuses at UFC 278.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising, but The Rock has the power to do something here, and McKinney's calling him out on Twitter over it, and it's getting some traction in MMA media, and that's a fucking good thing.
Yeah. I'd say,
it's bullshit that the UFC is trying to squeeze this deal in under the Venom money.
Yeah, no, it's stupid. It's stupid, and honestly, it comes down to just like kind of just a disrespect, and
it's disrespectful as fuck.
Like,
just like that crypto.com shit.
Yeah,
every single fighter's got to wear that stupid shirt to all their stuff, and they don't get nothing for it.
Nothing. It's fucked up.
And I mean, this might be a bit of a stretch here, but not really, because I'm actually into the crypto world. All right, I buy and sell cryptocurrencies. I've been studying them since 2017. I know a lot of shit about that, and I actually feel bad for the poor person that might be sitting here being a UFC fan and watching this fucking crypto.com shit and go, "Oh, well, I'm going to go on crypto.com and buy a bunch of shit," and then not know what they're doing, because it's just like buying and selling stocks or buying and selling other currencies. You should really spend a long time studying and learning before you go fucking buying shit just because your favorite fighter was like, "Buy Bitcoin." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, people could go out and literally buy that shit because of what they see in the UFC and then lose a shit ton of money. Now, ultimately, that's their own fault for buying shit that not learning about something beforehand.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe there's fighters in the UFC that are like, hey, I don't really want to promote that kind of shit where people, if they're not smart, could lose their fucking house.
Or also, like...
But they don't have a choice.
Yeah, but in, like, the same breath, too, there's also... it's a weird relationship, too, because now some fighters do have a deal with Crypto.com. Like that's what Francis Ngannou did with his last fight.
You get that Matt Damon deal?
He did a deal with Crypto.com. And, like, I don't
You haven't seen the Matt Damon commercials for Crypto.com? Are you fucking serious? They had one in the Super Bowl, dog.
I'm sure I've seen it, but I forgot about it. What happens is
he's just the big spokesman, man. He comes out and talks about how great Crypto.com is.
Okay. I feel it. But no, that's what happened when Francis fought Cyril Gane. Like, he did like this Crypto.com thing where, like, all his fans, if they purchase a pay-per-view, could, like, win some, like, fucking bit of what he got in his purse or some shit. It was weird. But my point being is, like, these are the top of the level guys. All these guys underneath, all the other guys are just not getting paid shit.
Yeah, nobody gets
they're
anything.
A giant
it's the main grind.
Billboard.
Like, and they're forced into promoting shit they might not like.
Yeah.
I mean, why can't they fucking get their own shoe deals, for fuck's sake?
Yeah.
Nobody is looking at their shoes to begin with. Their shoes are worn at media stuff during fight week and at the walkout, dude. They don't wear them in the cage.
Yeah.
They're not fighting in shoes.
Well, that's the thing too.
It's not like basketball.
Yeah. Well, even that, like, there's guys like in basketball, even boxing. Guys in boxing have shoe deals. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's.
Dana pretends like that's gonna shit on. Oh, the UFC will look shitty if they're wearing some other shit.
No, it will not.
No, they won't.
And also, it's like you're completely taking away their ability to make money if you really break it down. You know what I mean? You're making sure that you can only make the amount of money that they sign with you, basically. You know what I mean?
Right. And the difference between the Reebok deal and this deal with The Rock now is also the fact that Reebok wasn't a fan of UFC. Reebok knew so little about the UFC that they couldn't even put the fucking the name spelled right on jerseys, remember?
Yeah.
They had all kinds of shit. They had, like, what the fuck, Anderson... What the fuck was it? Was it Jose Silva? They had all kinds of fucked up, mixed up names, shit all misspelled. Mm-hmm. There was one fighter that everybody started calling him his fucking name that was misspelled on his jersey. I can't even, just to be funny.
Yeah.
Like, it was like 6 years ago now. I can't remember all the details.
I get it.
But, like, the point was, they weren't out there to being like, we love the fighters. And if they said it, nobody believed it. But, like, The Rock goes to events. The Rock goes out and acts like he can fight in movies. The Rock fucking comes out and hands the BMF fucking belt to fucking George Masvidal. You know what I mean? Like, he's kind of like trying to ride the fighter wave a little bit for his own brand. Because what does he do? What is he known for? Fucking fake fighting, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, he's done a lot since then. And I'm not trying to shit on him. I fucking love The Rock. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, you're trying to associate yourselves with real fighters because, frankly, it benefits you.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could keep your personal fandom on the DL. No one needs to know unless they see you at an event. But he's out there trying to big it up.
And that's what his whole brand is about too. Is about, like, the you know, the guy who did it with $7. Isn't this, like, thing called, like, $7 or something like that?
Some shit. Yeah.
His production company or something like that. But I wish he would maybe take a stance, whether he has the power or not, just at least in the public eye, be like, yeah, no, I'm with the fighters. I'm going to do what I can to see what we can figure out. Even if he did that and nothing came of it in time, like, and he just said, like, I did what I could, you would see, like, at least something from him. You know what I'm saying? I'm just surprised that he's gone media silent on this.
You probably didn't even know. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, how busy is that guy?
Yeah, he probably doesn't know the exact terms of the deal. He's got lawyers and all the people for that.
I mean, it's easy for me and you to talk about how like the fighters don't get money from what they're wearing. Who knows if the average fucking super successful rich guy like The Rock is even aware of that type of thing? Yeah, you're a UFC fan, but I don't know. You're not reading shit. I doubt he doesn't have time to fucking do like me and you.
No, not at all.
He's doing shit.
Yeah.
So, but let's kudos to Terrence McKinney for not letting this go.
Yeah.
And let's hope that The Rock sees it. And he's one of the people who has enough power. He could do something.
Yeah.
They're not gonna get fat stacks of cash, but
Could be some
can you
incentive.
throw him a G?
Yeah.
$500.
A little incentive would
every
be
event.
nice.
Something.
Yeah.
Can they get some
Something.
shit?
Some incentive.
So maybe they can buy the family dinner after they wear the shoes all week long and be like, well, got dinner for wearing these shoes for the sponsorship. Can we do that?
At least they get the meals from what is it, Evolve or whatever the fuck it's called.
Fuck. I mean the money's there. How much money is in the advertising budget for the Rock shoes?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's probably a good amount.
You divide that out amongst the athletes wearing them during fight week. I'm just saying, you could do something. He could do it.
Very simple.
They can make it. They don't even have to change the UFC's cut. They could go in, and I bet the Brock's company is big enough that they could divert some of their current ad budget to an addendum to whatever contract they have with the UFC, where they just toss an extra few $100 their way for wearing the fucking shoes.
Yeah.
Something, man.
Well, and you know what else? It's also like, I wonder if any of these guys who already have deals, if this has changed what they had. Like fucking Israel Adesanya has a whole deal with Puma and has worn Puma to every single interview and all this shit. And now you're gonna tell him that he's got to wear these fucking shoes.
Well,
instead?
shit. Remember, John Jones signed that goddamn Nike deal. Now he lost it temporarily after some of his troubles, but then the Reebok deal came in and crushed that shit.
Yeah.
Like, he wouldn't be wearing no Nike nothing.
Nothing.
And that would have been amazing for the sport had Nike had a huge MMA star under their banner. Like that could have been different
Nike
for MMA.
Been the ones
man.
who made the fight kits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I didn't even imagine that. But something needs to change here, and it would be nice if The Rock could get on board with all his talk of being a supporter of the fighters and such.
Yeah. You're right, and I agree. All right, well, let's talk a bit about some news. So, Jose Aldo has officially hung him up.
Jose Aldo, recently of the bantamweight division, but famously known for the 145-pound division.
Probably the greatest featherweight of all time.
Well, let's listen to this little bit of his stats here, so people listening can get the full picture. I mean, he was 31-8 as a pro record. 4 of those losses came in title fights, and one of them was the future UFC champion Alexander Volkanovski, who hasn't lost in like God knows how long. Right? Aldo won 25 of his first 26 fights, including 9 straight title defenses. He became featherweight champion the second time at UFC 200. He was the undisputed #1 in the world at 145 pounds from around 2009 to 2014. And when he retired here, it was at 135 pounds where he was ranked the number 6 in, and let's not even look at the UFC rankings. I like to use MMAfighting.com's global rankings. Those are, I think, pretty good for a look at the global picture. And they had him at number 6 there. I mean, and with his quality of competition, I mean, Jesus, dude, in his prime, who didn't Aldo fight with? He was WC
and he was
champ.
dominant in all his wins too.
Do you remember when he fucked up Cub Swanson, bro?
Remember how bad
8
he
seconds?
fucked up? No, I'm talking about how bad he fucked up Uriah Faber. Dude, beat the
He
shit
beat
out of
Mike
him.
Brown when Brown held the title.
Yeah.
It was fresh off 2 recent wins over Uriah Faber.
Mm-hmm.
Then he fucking put a lopsided beatdown, like you said, on Faber himself.
Yeah.
The only other dude that's really close to him was a Kid Yamamoto back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Faber was the man for so long at 145 pounds, and when he beat Aldo, when he fought Aldo, I mean, he got whooped.
Got destroyed. Yeah. Aldo is he's got an interesting career because the longevity is undeniable, but I feel like when it comes down to him being the greatest featherweight of all time, I think he is the greatest featherweight of all time for now.
Well, yeah, now that he's retired, I think it's safe to call him that. I mean, look at his UFC championship run.
Yeah.
I mean, he twice beat Chad Mendez and Frankie Edgar. Mm-hmm. He beat Ricardo Lamas when he was a serious contender. Yep. Beat the Korean Zombie, Kenny Florian, Mark Hominick. And then you can see a lot of the bantamweights that he's had his wins over here, even at this later stage in his career. Rob Font, Pedro Munoz, Chito Vera. I mean, look how good Chito Vera is doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's why I think that you can call him the greatest featherweight of all time for now,
for
though.
now. But I think that it really ended for Aldo long ago. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't hold this bantam. I mean, I'm not trying to shit on his accomplishments. We just heard them. Now we're going to shift into opinion.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, Aldo basically ended when he fought Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor riled him up in a way that we had never seen before. He had him beat at the press conferences. I mean, he was beat before he ever walked in the fucking cage. He was beat to the fact that Conor called his shot knowing exactly what Aldo was going to do, which was something Aldo never did, which is get so mad he just runs out like a fucking moron. I mean, it was what it was. He ran out like a fool and just tried to attack Conor because he was so fucking emotional about everything. Conor slipped a punch beautifully, fucking lays him out. And that was the end.
The rest
I
is
mean,
history, yeah.
the rest is history. Like, and that doesn't change the fact that I also consider him the greatest of all time. But I think after that, everything was just kind of the downhill slide.
Yeah.
And the slide got so bad he had to go down to bantamweight, where he did all right, man. He did all right, but he wasn't the greatest. That wasn't the greatest fighter of all time fighting a bantamweight.
Yeah.
No. And I'm glad that he decided to go ahead and go out now before he started losing a lot of fights or damaging his
legacy,
reputation and his legacy.
Plus, he's fought so much,
BJ
man.
Penn.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he didn't do well at bantamweight, and I'm not saying he was garbage after
No, he's always
Conor.
been
I'm
good.
just saying that was the end of elite Aldo for me.
So, on my side, I agree with a lot of what you just said, but I disagree a little bit. So, I agree that Aldo slid after the Conor fight, but I don't think he slid all the way down the hill until he lost both the times to Max Holloway. I think when he got the way Max Holloway put a beat down on him both those times, I think hurt his psyche a whole lot more because he slipped with Conor into a spot where he was it. You could tell everyone knows the story and has seen what happened, but I think he had a little bit more momentum back going and like thinking that he was back to who he was after he beat Frankie, and then he had a little bit more. They stripped Conor. He gets the belt back. He got a little bit of momentum going. But I think when Holloway beat him in the fashion that he beat him both times, I think that's where the wheels fell off.
But here's a question for you. Do you think that if Conor McGregor never enters the UFC, or if he had gone in at lightweight, and so Aldo McGregor never meet, that never happens. Aldo doesn't get shook up the way he got shook up there. Does he then go on to beat Max Holloway in what would have been one fight, not two?
No, because I don't think it's the mental side that is why Holloway beat him so bad. I think it was the physical side. I think that Aldo had been in so many 5-round fights, and fucking Holloway came in with the same pace that he had normally put on people and put it back on him, and I don't think he could handle it at that age and that many fights into his career. Whereas like Conor, I think hurt him mentally. I think like mentally, like everyone saw what happened, and Conor like destroyed his entire confidence. But I think the Max Holloway thing, those two fights, is when he started like going downhill physically. I think his pop wasn't there as much as it used to be, because like after that, look at his fights after that. So during his title run, he had a good amount of finishes. Like he had the one over Mendez. He had he had the armbar against fucking, was it Horiguchi? I think it was. He had a lot of like real highlight like finishes to his fights. And I think the later you go into his career, after the McGregor fight, after the two Holloway fights, who did he ever finish? I don't think anybody.
His finish rate definitely declined, as did the amount of leg kicks he would throw.
Yeah, like there was something there that happened. Like I said, first mentally against McGregor and then physically against Holloway, that took him to what he was at the end of his career, which was still a good fighter. But I just, like you said, also I just think his mentality of being the greatest was no longer there.
I agree. I think that's good analysis. And the thing to remember when it comes to combat sports, which is why I think it's kind of silly that we do this back and forth. about who the GOAT is when in to include active fighters is that greatness doesn't happen in a single fight. Really, it's built over a resume,
Yeah.
a body of work. And, now we've talked about kind of some of the reasons, why we think maybe he fell off or how and when that happened. And let's end the segment talking a little bit more about his accolades. He was the most decorated featherweight of all time. His nearly a decade of dominance over his peers. 2,544 days as world champion under the Zuffa umbrella, which is the most ever, because Zuffa also owned WEC.
WEC, yeah.
So, and they're, of course, the parent company of the UFC. And he had 2,215 consecutive days as champion in his prime, which is the second most ever. 9 consecutive Zuffa title defenses, which is the second most ever. And he did have a rather improbable third act in a lower weight division. It almost netted him a title run. Like he was close. He did respectable down there.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that you can make the case that he is the greatest fighter of all time. I think that that's an ever-evolving thing that includes this pantheon of people that will forever be debated. But I think that you have to include Jose Aldo when you talk about people like George St. Pierre, when you talk about people like Randy Couture, BJ Penn.
Think he's
Anderson Silva.
Think he's on the Rushmore or what?
I don't like that term because that cuts it down to 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think that, I think if you got to pick 4, I don't think Aldo's on that list.
Okay.
If you got to pick the featherweights, he's king.
Yeah.
Until somebody proves him better and then they retire and you can compare their body of work together and make an argument about it.
Well, that's why it's tough in MMA also, because when you look at like boxing, you look at all these other sports where you talk about Mount Rushmores and stuff like, or greatest of all time and stuff like that. It's definitely a body of work thing, and then also when you talk about MMA, it's all about runs, man. Like if you talk about like other sports and stuff, like you talk about Hall of Fame careers, it's about like longevity and like they were the best forever. They're from a rookie to when the Tom Brady from a rookie to now, like he's still been the best. He's one of the greatest of all time. But in MMA, it's tough. There's really, if you look at it, maybe 2 people ever who's really ever done that. And it's like Jones and Khabib, and there's reasons why you can argue either one of those, and even GSP to a certain extent. But in MMA, it's all about runs. I feel like there's certain runs in times where the UFC, because it's such a young sport, have changed the whole game. Like that's why Conor McGregor is in one of the greatest conversation, not because of his like body of work. Because if you look at his body of work, sure you can poke holes in certain places, but it's undeniable. But at that time, what he did,
his run culminating with the victory over Eddie.
Yeah, that's one of the best runs ever. Or even look at someone like Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler was only champion for 4 fights, but if you look at those 4 fights, those are 4 of the greatest welterweight fights you'll ever watch.
Right.
Him versus Big Rig the first time was one of the greatest fights. Him the second time was one of the most masterful performances. And then you look at him versus Rory, that's one of the greatest fights ever, period. And then him versus Carlos Condit, same thing. So like MMA is just, I feel like it's so different when you talk about this greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And that's why like Jose Aldo has to also be in that conversation. Because that 10-year run where he was just unbeatable is
absolutely
undeniable. Whether you like him, you don't like him, you rooted for him or against him, he is etched in stone as one of the greatest fighters that have ever been in the UFC.
Yes, for sure, without a doubt.
Now, we said before, I do think there's, people that could surpass him that are in the division right now. That person being like Volkanovski, who is also now entering that 10 years undefeated mark, and he's gotten all these defenses. Now it's going to be a measuring stick of how far he can take it, because right now I still have to pick Aldo over everyone at featherweight, greatest featherweight at least of all time.
Yeah, he's going to have competition when Holloway and Volkanovski into their careers.
See, I think Holloway's officially out of the conversation, at least at featherweight.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just leaving it open-ended because I mean, maybe he goes through some career rejuvenation and wins the title again at featherweight. Then what would you say if he won it the third time? He comes back and
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Volk moves up. He comes back, tools up a bunch of people, and wins 3 more, 4 more fights.
It could happen.
That'd be crazy.
I could see it.
Crazier things
Yeah.
happen.
No, you're
So
right.
that's why I would just like to wait. But I think those are the
Yeah.
only two that could possibly
Mhm.
interfere with this discussion.
Yeah.
And I don't think he really falls into the greatest fighter of all time. I mean,
No, I think Jones is still there.
Jones is still there. Demetrius Johnson is still putting in work.
Yeah.
I mean, he's easy to forget about because he's in Risen, but he's fighting. He
Oh,
might be
UFC.
fighting in Risen. Or, I'm
That's
sorry,
a
not
UFC.
Risen 1. I had Risen on the mind because they just
Yeah.
had that fight this weekend with
Yeah.
Mayweather. He's fighting in 1. And some people might hold that against him because they might think the quality of competition is lower. But I think what
I think it's
balances
higher.
that out is, I think it's higher too. But let's not forget he's fighting an entire weight division higher now.
Yeah.
He's fighting at 135.
Yeah.
Because he's forced to. That's their flyweight.
But
division.
there's still 125ers that are fighting at 135.
True, but there's
Yeah.
also 145ers that are fighting at
Sure, yeah.
35.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
They say there's no weight cutting,
Yeah.
and then like, how many dudes missed weight
Dude.
on that last shit?
Moraes, who he fought in his last fight, looked humongous.
Yeah, I mean, he just beat that dude that was fucking big as fuck.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, he's still winning titles and defending titles, winning the Grand Prix over there,
Yeah.
and building on his outstanding body of work.
Mhm.
So there's a lot to be said for the GOAT, but he is the featherweight greatest,
Yeah.
reigning king.
Yep.
Jose Aldo.
Mm-hmm. Well, that begs the question, though. Do you think I've seen some people talk about it, and do you think Aldo ends up going into boxing?
That weight, I don't think he wants that smoke from any of those guys. 135 and boxing is a fucking shark tank. Now you got Shakur Stevenson moving up there too.
Yeah, but what if he just,
If he wants to fuck
Well,
around with some like
I
journeyman,
think I'm
getting
thinking.
the
I'm
taste.
talking like exhibitions. I don't think he's gonna do anything
You're
like
trying to
fucking-
actually do something in boxing at that and that weight class.
no,
Good
no.
luck, son.
I think what I'm trying to say, and I think it would make a lot of sense, is if you try to fight Mayweather,
Oh, and like an exhibition fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're about the same size actually. They
like
could do
same
that.
size.
Mayweather's
Mayweather's just looking for everyone on earth to exhibition.
God,
I think that would actually sell.
Dude, he KO'd that fool down in fucking on Risen the other
Yeah.
night.
Uh-huh.
It was
I
actually
think that
kind
would
of
actually
sweet.
sell though. Like Mayweather versus fucking
Jose Aldo.
Aldo's an actually like well-known fighter. If you really look at it,
Oh,
like
he is.
people know who the fuck Jose Aldo is,
Dude, I'm
whether
not
it's
gonna
good
lie,
thing
I'm
or bad
interested
things.
in
Yeah,
it.
I would watch Aldo versus Mayweather. I'd
And as
watch.
part of the intrigue also comes from the rivalry between Conor and Aldo.
Yeah, I'd watch it.
Because we want to see what we saw Conor against, and let's see what Jose could do.
But
Right.
no, dude, how classic would it
Oh.
be if Aldo was the one who beat Mayweather, dude?
That'd be
My
crazy.
God. And then fucking Conor would have a field day with that. Actually, he would love it because he'd be like, "See, and I knocked that fool out with one punch.
Yup.
You're a pussy," or something like that. You know, he'd do some shit like that. And
One
I
of
can
these-
see it. I can
That's
see
actually not a bad thing.
it. Yeah,
That'd be great for Jose. It'd be a massive payday. There's actually interest there, I would think.
yeah,
too.
I would think so too. Mayweather's gonna fight a fucking YouTuber in his next fight. He's gonna fight fucking Homeboy's brother, KSI's brother. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? He's gonna kill that guy.
For those of you listening, I'm simply shaking my head in disgust.
So yeah, it could happen.
Best to Jose
I want it to
Aldo.
happen.
Let's see what happens.
Yep, and I think that about wraps up the show for us today as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening, everybody. Also like to thank our sponsor for the show, Binoid. You can learn more about their CBD and hemp-derived THC and cannabinoid products by going to SWATMMA.com and clicking on the Cool Stuff button.
Also, you can click the link in our YouTube page where you can also head over there, click the like button, the comment button, leave a comment, and then head over to our page, hit subscribe, go to SWATMMA.com, click the gear button, buy a t-shirt, support your damn podcast. Come on, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Peace.